Hello, and welcome to the first video in a series of videos in which I will be detailing the standard interface of Blender. This video is going to be showing basically the 5 editor windows as well as a few other basic controls that you can use while you're in Blender. So, starting off, we'll start off nice and easy, go with the information bar right up here up top. This has things like File, Help, a few other things, Add, Render. They're what you would expect. File has New, Open, Save, all that stuff. Help, pretty self-explanatory. The rest of the stuff I'm not 100% on. I haven't really gone over it yet, but I will be covering that later on once I get a firm grasp on that from doing tutorials and basically learning Blender myself. The one thing that I do know a decent amount about is the add, which is, it's pretty self-explanatory. Add adds things into your world to work with. So if I want to add another cube, I would go in and add another cube, but I'm not going to do that. These two here, I know they allow you to change essentially the interface, so I'm not going to mess with those, but they basically determine what you're going to be doing with Blender. There is one selection called Game Logic, which will allow you to essentially make a game within Blender. It allows you to do scripting with Python, all that good stuff, but I'm not going to get into that right now. The next window over here is the Outliner Editor, which contains, right up here, it's got the information about the scene. It's got basically all the players that are in the world. So if you go Camera, Cube, you can see that it's changing the selection based on what I click over here. Beyond that, it's all fairly advanced. All these allow you to change size, shape, texture, color, anything that you could imagine that you would want to change. It'll let you change this light into a different sort of light that dynamically changes in the world. It's a lot more advanced things over here that I haven't gone over yet, so I am not going to play around there too much. All you really need to know is that it contains a lot of the options for controlling the scene, controlling rendering of objects, the textures, everything of that nature. This bottom bar down here is the timeline editor, which, just like what it sounds like, is a timeline. It's primarily used for animations, so if you're animating something and you need to get to a precise point, boom, you can go down here, get to the timeline. You can zoom in, zoom out to get more precise, less precise. And that's, for all I know, that's essentially all that is to me at the moment. On the left here is the Tools Editor, which, just like it sounds like, contains a bunch of tools to be used within the world. There's really not too much to go on beyond that. It's just tools for manipulating objects. But they do change, which I will show you in a moment. The last is the 3D viewport, which takes up the majority of the screen and is probably one of the more important sections of Blender. This is where you do all your work. This is where everything shows up. So you can mess around in here all you want. It's not going to show you anything unless you have this. The 3D viewport starts off with 3 objects by default, which is the cube, the camera, and the light. This doesn't look like a light, but it is. It can be changed, like I said over here. You can change it so that it acts as a sun or as other various things. By default, it's a point light. The cube, pretty standard. You can move it around, you can do stuff with it. And the camera is also able to be moved all over the place. And that's about that for covering those 3. In order to select them, your intuitive sense would say to left click, but that actually does this and moves this little guy around. You actually want to right click in order to select things. So it takes a little getting used to, but once you do it enough times, it sort of becomes muscle memory. Resizing the windows is pretty intuitive as well. If you've ever done anything on a computer, you know how to resize windows. You just go to the edge, it gives you a little resize cursor, and you drag it. Pretty simple, pretty standard. Moving on. Like I said before, getting back to this, if you watch, especially the keyframes section right here, it'll change depending on what I have. See, when I click the cube, it adds the shading, which gives me the smooth and the flat options, which I would imagine allow me to smoothen or flatten out my objects. Basically, whenever you click an object, the editors will change in context to whatever object you have selected. So for a camera, you don't need to smooth or flatten a camera. That wouldn't make any sense at all. And the same goes for a light. But the cube, or I would imagine any other object like the cube that you place, can be altered like that. So, to compensate for that, all the editor windows will change in some way, shape, or form to go along with what you have selected. The last thing that I'm going to cover in this video is the ability to change your editor windows. The button for this is located on the left side of each window. So for this one it's here, this one it's over here, right there, and down here. This is for the main editor window here, the 3D viewport. But for now I'll change that to, just to have some fun, I'll change that to the file browser. So it allows for a little bit of customizability, but right now it's kind of useless to me. Oh boy. Oh, what have I done? Oh yeah, it moves it up here for some reason. But now we're back to normal, moving stuff around. I believe that's all I wanted to cover with this video, so I will leave you with all of that, and I will see you soon. Thanks for watching.